Go to the next bit. Okay, now we're in April 2013, trying to look at how foreclosure rates have changed, if they've changed. If they've changed. So now we've got 1,734 I drew from Zillow. Zillow's a great real estate site, apparently. It's just a warehouse of information. So I pulled about that many of them, and 163 of them are in foreclosure of that sample that I drew. And you gotta realize too, this is not a 244 question. It's more of a sample question. The word Bend home spreads over a humongous geographic area. Like, I've got friends that are essentially in Sisters that still have Bend addresses, and that are 3/4 of the way to Redmond that still have Bend addresses. So I'm not filtering it down for like Bend city limits kind of thing. I'm using Bend as they're using it. Don't worry about that. That's not something that's concerned about in this quiz. But just realize, for example, years ago I helped a friend put mulcher on their house. And I got mulch from a local company, and they said there's no delivery charge if you're inside Bend. And my friends who live essentially 20 miles out of town have a Bend address. I'm like, there you go, Bend address, no shipping charge. I'm like, well, what do you mean, well? No shipping charge, Bend address, no shipping charge. He's like, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a cut on the mulch. And I did some math in my head, I'm like, okay, I'll take that instead. Because that was actually a better deal. If we paid the shipping, we actually got more mulch than if we hadn't paid the shipping, got the same amount of mulch. So once again, math wins. Yeah. Again and again and again and again. But just realize that that's one of those confounding variables of definition. What defines a Bend home? Depends on who you ask, apparently. If you ask Zillow versus asking a local landscaping company. So just keep that in mind as you go through life. And you have discussions with people. Make sure you talk about the same thing. Okay, anyway, now what's the foreclosure rate based on the new numbers? Well, you do it the same way. There's no difference. You run the exact same interval. What'd you guys get? 8% to?
And I just rounded that.
Excellent. Hang tight. Let's go ahead and do this. Tests. Everybody's finding the menu okay? One prop Z in. Okay, now we've got 163, 1734, 95% confidence. Boom! Foreclosure rate is going up. It was 9.3%, just under. Now it's 9.4%, right? Right?
Yeah.
I'm being devil's advocate here. Right? Right? Well, I don't know. Let's put the margin of error on the estimate, yes? To what Carly said, the interval goes from about 8.0% to about 10.8%, yes? So here's 8. 7, 8. Put 8 here. And 10.8%, here's 10, here's 11, about here. So this is April 2013. The media is going to report a 0.1% rise in foreclosure rates. Because it went, P hat went from 9.3% here to 9.4% here, correct? It did. Let me know. Yeah. That's a fact. It did, based on the sample. It went from 9.3 to 9.4%. We can see it right here. Does that mean that the population parameter went from 9.3% to 9.4%? Can we make a claim about any change in the population parameter based on those two confidence intervals? Don't even worry about that. Just look at those two. I see what you're saying, but I see what you're saying. I'm not trying to explain why it changed. I'm saying, did it change at all based on those two intervals? Look at them very closely. We're going to come back to this every day in 244 because it is the point of 244.
I think we can't really say because our margin of error shrunk, but...
The margin of error did shrink. Can anybody see why the margin of error shrank? The sample was larger. I drew a larger sample, which by mathematical definition shrinks your margin of error down. Good catch on that one, very nice. But here's the deal. What's the least you are confident in saying the foreclosure rate was in 2013? 8%. You're confident saying it's no less than 8%, correct? Well, in 2010, you were confident in saying it was no less than 7%, 7.1%, I think it was, ish. So in other words, it's possible, we can't say how probable, but it's possible that the foreclosure rate was actually less in 2010 and is higher now. It's also possible that it was higher in 2010 and is lower now. Do you see how we have two possibilities that are contradictory? It's possible that it was lower here and higher then. It's possible it was higher here and lower there, which means we have to put our shoulders up and go, I don't know where it is, which means I can't make a conclusion about it changing at all based on those two. Do you see the difference between that and saying that 9.4 is bigger than 9.3? Alan, ask me that question, please.
Oh, I'm just curious, since it falls within the original, the 2010 parameters,
It falls definitely within this, yes?
wouldn't it have to be above the max on 2013? Would it have to be above 11.4 to consider being?
I love that question. Can you hold that question for like 5 minutes? Because I want to slap some more data up here real quick and take a look at all the data together, and then I want to come back to that. Fantastic question. I definitely, that's part of today too, is addressing that question, which is a great one. Ask me more questions. Do you see how there's an inconclusiveness here? We can't tell that the foreclosure rate here is any higher than the foreclosure rate here, because it might not be. It might be lower, it might be higher, it might be the,
Same.
for that matter, it might be exactly the same. There's only one way to find out if it's the same, but what's that? What's the only way to find out what the true foreclosure rate is? What's the only way? That's the only way. You learn in 243. Go do a census. That's the only way of getting margins of error removed. Clearly, if the sample gets larger, the margin of error shrinks down, yes? So the only way to make it shrink down to 0 is to count everything. That's the only way to be 100% sure, is to count everything. That's why we have the Census Bureau, which is also running into trouble these days, because there's too many damn people to count anymore. Fair enough? Let's do it again. Here we go, a newer random sample, December 2013, same Zillow site. Now I grabbed 1,102, and there were 81 in foreclosure. Okay, so same idea,